Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to another edition of the NSCAC Presents Behind the Bench. Today, we have a special guest with us. We have the Director of Coaching for United Soccer Coaches, Ian. Good afternoon. Welcome.
Good afternoon, Valerio. Thank you very much for having me. Really appreciate it.
It's our pleasure. Today, we're going to have an interesting discussion on how formations can become systems. Ian's going to talk to us about this in a presentation. If you have any questions, we ask that you either put them in the chat section of the Zoom below, or your question and answer button. So there's two buttons you can use: the chat or the Q&A, and we'll try to answer as many questions as we can. Ian, tell us a little bit about yourself.
Yeah. Well, again, thank you for having me. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri today. And I run coaching education programs for United Soccer Coaches. We have lots of Canadians come down and take the courses here in the US, which is great. Very good representation from Ontario, particularly, but when we're on the West Coast, a lot of guys come down from British Columbia, etc. So I've been doing this job in full-time coach education, and we run kind of parallel to US Soccer Federation in some respects. For the last 9 years. Prior to that, I coached college in the US for 21 seasons, and I was also state director for youth soccer in Minnesota. And actually, it's quite interesting because the way we run a state association in the US is not dissimilar to some of your bigger clubs in your community. So I did some work with John and Tony LaFerrera at Pickering a few years ago. What I really like about Canada is your clubs, you have less clubs, but they tend to be bigger and more community focused. So my experiences in Canada have always been extremely positive. And then I grew up in Great Britain and went to university in Great Britain, but I came to this country in '87. Because of the way that US soccer is generous to many people, I've had the opportunity to travel internationally and do coach ed at a lot of places. And then, of course, the last year, Valerio, as all your guests would understand and participants, a lot of it's been in the Zoom space. So increasingly, we're more comfortable in this type of interaction.
Sounds good. All right, let's get into your presentation, Ian.
Yep. So I get to share the screen when you give it to me.
Yeah.
While Valerio is just working out some Zoom things, just a couple of notes for the group of you. As a good group of participants, so thank you for being here live. I need to tip my hat to Tony Waiters, obviously very influential in the things of the NSCAC, but Tony was the in charge of goalkeeper education here in my organization prior to my coming on board. So Tony's a huge loss to all of us in the US, North America, Canada, and world soccer. So just a tip of my hat to Tony.
Yeah, it was a big loss. While I'm trying to give you some access, talk a little bit about the upcoming coaching convention that you guys are interested in hosting, because we do have a lot of coaches from our area, and some of them are even on this call today that might be interested in attending in January.
Yeah. Okay. So again, guys, just little promo here. It's actually on the website linked about this meeting that we have an annual convention, and members of your association are parallel members with our association. We do an annual event in January. This year it'll be in Kansas City, or in January of 2022, it'll be in Kansas City. It's a good airport here. It's where I live. It's where my offices are. And we'll have a week long of activity. We'll have 200 educational presentations, All America, an exhibitor show. Usually about 10,000 soccer coaches come through the event. And I think any of you that have been to it before can speak to the fact it's a pretty intensive week of socializing, networking. the education is great, and sort of from 8, 9 a.m. to probably 4 p.m. you're
Sorry about that, guys. I'm just trying to see. There's Ian. You're on mute, Ian. We're having some technical difficulties today.
okay. How are we doing now?
We're good.
All right. So, and you can see my screen, Valerio?
We're good with the screen, yes.
All right. So, Coach, is about 20 minutes here with my PowerPoint presentation, and then we'll open up for discussion questions. When John De Benedictis first called me, I wanted to talk about how formations become systems, which is what I'm going to talk to you about. But I've added some extra content here that talks about club development and creating a club culture and a club identity. But what I think we can probably, if we're all honest with ourselves, we can all say that at some point in our career, when people asked us to explain what our team did, we would say a series of numbers beginning with 1 that added up to 11, and that would be our answer to what our philosophy of soccer was. So I play a 4-4-2, or I play a 4-3-3. And that's great. That's a start. And I think if you watch MLS, Premier League, professional leagues, you can pretty much see that basic formation when they kick off. But then you really can't see it very much for the rest of the 90 minutes, apart from the other kickoffs around halftime and goals. And what it doesn't tell you is how that becomes a system, how it's employed in terms of pressing high, pressing low, funneling to the wide, funneling to the center. Is the triangle in the midfield? I mean, if you say you've got a 4-3-3 and I say I've got a 4-3-3, do you play with 1 deep, 2 high, 2 deep, 1 high? Do you play with the diamond if it's 4 in the midfield? What are the roles of your fullbacks? So if I look at some English football, the fullbacks never go beyond the wide midfielders or the wide attackers. But in other systems, the fullbacks are at the corner flags all the time. So the great thing about this is the formations are just really very, very basic kind of concepts. And I think as coaches, sometimes we get too stuck on those numbers that add up to 11, and we don't talk enough about how we employ that in our context. So for me, what I'd like to share with you today is all about my context or my hypothetical context, and then how you would use that based on the resources and what you have available to you wherever you particularly coach, and whatever influence and impact you can have on your team. There we go, good. So I was not lazy in this presentation, but I took a presentation I first adapted in 2017 and presented at the convention. And at the time, it was particularly important because in the US, we had been mandated to go to a small-sided game format across the ages, and you can see that there. So this was contemporary at the time.
Thank you for watching this short preview video from the National Soccer Coaches Association of Canada. To see the full video, plus have access to hundreds of other coaching videos, blogs, webinars, and podcasts, plus free and discounted coach education courses and other soccer merchandise, plus to have exclusive access to register for all future NSCAC conventions, both live and online, click on the link below to become a member of the NSCAC today. Also, please remember to like and subscribe to our YouTube channel, as your continued support allows us to continue to provide coach education and coach development resources to soccer coaches across Canada and worldwide. Thank you again for your continued support, and we look forward to seeing you at future NSCAC events.